Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Swam.
Sorry
How are
for
you
the
doing?
technical issue.
Yes, just like technical issues, but all is good. Just
Hi.
to update everyone right now, hello to everyone that's watching. My name is Kyle, and I am the co-founder of Prout. We are an LGBTQ plus community networking and support platform. And one of our missions is to be able to allow the LGBTQ plus community to be connected to each other through same interests, groups, events, as well as resources. And we are very happy today to be able to start our very first current live stream. And just a bit of background before I introduce our guest today, Mr. Swang Vijaya. How this started about was our users had reached out to us asking for more help for their legal, medical, as well as financial resources and needs. And one of the things as well that popped up was the ability for people to be able to be connected to experts who were not just passionate about the community, but who also understood about their needs and wants today. And we are very happy our live stream uh, dealing with LGBTQ plus individuals and clients as well. Hi, Swam. Can you hear us, Swam?
Hi, hi. You were a bit choppy
Hi, how
there.
are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Uh, yes,
Hi,
yes,
I'm okay.
yes. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing great as well. Thank you so much for coming on board today to speak to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just for the benefit of those who are watching, uh, could you just tell a little bit more about your background and your practice?
Yes, I've been in practice since 2015. I specialize mostly in disputes. So about 70% of my work is in commercial disputes. About 30% of my work is in criminal disputes. And I think since last year, when our firm became one of the two law firms to sponsor Pink Dot, I've been getting some work from members of the LGBT community. And really, some of those work really relates to some of the things that they want to do to protect their loved ones. And of course, there are other
Mm,
things which members of the community can't really do. So, yeah, that's just a short background of what I'm doing.
fantastic, fantastic. And I think, the community, really is in need of more lawyers like yourself, who are listening to their needs and wants as well. Just to inform everyone before we dive into our questions for today, if you have any questions for Swang today, our special guest, please feel free to drop us a note in the comments if you have them. Also, the one of the great things that has happened recently within the lawyer community is the launch of this very special legal guidebook called Same But Different. It is a legal guidebook for LGBTQ plus couples and families to be able to navigate legal matters in Singapore from all kinds, ranging from adoption as well as other legal protections. You can get a free e-copy of this book at singaporelgbtlaw.com. That is where you can place that, and I will place a link in the description later. But Swang, so just going ahead into some of the questions that we have today. One of the things that our users kept asking a lot, and I think this also relates personally for me myself as an LGBTQ plus person in Singapore. What is the state of legal protections for people like us in Singapore, and what can we do and what can we not do? Obviously, there is a statute called Section 377A, which criminalizes consenting sex between consenting males. But on a general sense, what is the legal protection landscape like for someone like me?
I suppose it depends on certain areas of life, and it depends on the specific areas of things that you want to do. So there are some areas where the position of members of LGBT community are not so different really from other people, and there are some areas where there's a big difference between members of the LGBT community and other people. So, for instance, an area where there isn't much of a difference, there isn't much of a disadvantage, would be in relation to maybe asset protection for your loved ones. So, I mean, you could always do a will to protect your loved ones. You could put joint names into assets for your loved ones. Yeah, and these things are just things which normal people can do as well. Medical decisions as well are things, is an area which there isn't too much of a difference between our community and other people. You can appoint somebody to make medical decisions for you in the event that you are without mental capacity by signing, for instance, a lasting power of attorney in advance. Other things where, of course, it will be extremely where the positions are very different would, of course, be in relation to the issue of children. And even in relation to the issue of children, it would be more difficult for men in the LGBT community to get children than women. So even there, you have quite.
I see. In your practice, what are some of the common things that LGBTQ plus clients ask you about?
The types of matters that I've been getting so far would really be execution of wills, meaning just making sure that their loved ones get the inheritance when they die. So that's a big point. A second big point would be who are allowed to make decisions on medical issues and properties and affairs issues on behalf of the loved one in the event that the loved one loses mental capacity. Those are two areas that I've been getting so far. There are other areas in the book which we were recommending people to consider doing, such as potential cohabitation contract with your loved one to provide some asset protection for each other in the event that your relationship breaks up in the future. But I think because that hasn't been really publicized very much, I haven't really been getting much matters of that nature. Of course, when it comes to criminal practice, I've seen. Oh yeah. So criminal practice actually just a few weeks ago, I did receive one inquiry about somebody who asked whether authorities could actually just check into issues like your sexual background and whether there are any implications arise from that. So I think even that I've got a few inquiries.
Well, let's talk about some of these issues. I think one of the more interesting things that you said is on the issue of asset protection, on the issue of drawing wills, for example, this is something that is legally binding in Singapore, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yes. So you
I
have
see.
uh, it really depends on whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim. So if you're Muslim, like all Muslims, whether you're an LGBT or not, there are far more restrictions on what you can put in your will. But if you're non-Muslim, pretty much you can do a lot of things in terms of determining who should inherit your estate through a will.
I see.
So
I
I think
see. I
when it
see.
comes to that area, really, there isn't much of a disadvantage.
And across the issue of, say, so maybe I'll share a little bit of a personal story. So I was actually a victim of sexual assault 5 years ago. And I think
Oh,
when that happened, I really didn't know who I should go to, who to turn to, whether reporting about sexual assault for myself as an LGBTQ plus person, whether I was allowed to do that. What's the state of reporting about such matters, especially if they are part of, say, a criminal thing? Is rape something that can be reported, and are people protected by it?
yes, I think there should be no worries about reporting uh, instances of sexual assault against you. If you have been sexually assaulted, that isn't an offense under. Oops, sorry. Okay. I mean, if you were sexually assaulted and
No
if you were
worries.
raped, that certainly, I mean, that isn't an offense under Section 377A. So, when it comes to black letter technical law, really, you don't really have to be too worried of reporting it. But I suppose most people's worries are really about if I report this, are people going to start doing background checks on me? Are people going to start to find out that actually I engage regularly in sexual conduct with members of the same sex? And are they then able to start criminalizing you? Or are they going to start keeping tabs on you and that kind of thing? I'm just looking at it anecdotally, but at least on an anecdotal level, I think there shouldn't be much to worry about because I do see instances of people reporting sexual assault, and the reports are taken very seriously by the police, and the prosecution authorities actually do take very serious steps about prosecuting and bringing to justice people who engage in sexual assault. And the victim, from what I've been seeing, doesn't get harmed in the process, or rather, I mean, the victim doesn't get harmed just because he reported sexual assault. Of course, if you recall,
I see.
or was it 2 years ago, there was the person who, during Pink Dot, had written a comment on Facebook to say that he's going to get a machine gun and shoot all members of the LGBT community. I can't. Do you recall that? And
Yes, yes, yes.
and
It was quite a
and
famous story.
correct. And what I found heartening was that the public prosecutor then, there was Justice V.K. Raja. I know. I mean, he was he was previously Justice. Then he was Attorney General. So the Attorney General V.K. Raja, or I should say, the prosecution authorities under the then public prosecutor V.K. Raja took a very strong position in prosecuting this person who was threatening physical harm to members of the LGBT community. And later on, when he was close to retirement, he actually mentioned that one of the strong objectives of the prosecution authority is that they act in the public interest. And one matter of public interest is that they should protect certain groups which may be at risk of being harmed. So I found it quite heartening, and I really don't think that it should be an issue when it comes to reporting.
What you've mentioned, as I'm listening, most of what you mentioned comes from, sort of a more anecdotal perspective. Is this covered in the statutes? Is it actually part of, is it part of, the legislation? Because, there might be some concern here that, anecdotally, we see some things are developing, but until it's not in the statutes, I don't know. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, when it comes to statutes, Section 377A still criminalizes consensual sex between members of the same sex. So, yes, you have if you do intimate acts with your partner in private, you're completely not disturbing anybody else. You're not engaging in public indecent conduct. In theory, that is still something which you can be prosecuted for and convicted and imprisoned under the law. And that law is still not removed yet. So that's the position when it comes to black letter law. But there haven't been really active prosecutions of people under this statute for quite a long time. And the government and the prosecution authorities, I think, made quite a strong stand, both in parliament as well as in the court, when it came to that constitutional challenge back in 2014 to that statute, that this is a particular crime which they are really not going to actively enforce, in the sense that they're not going to start arresting people and charging them and convicting them of Section 377A.
Right.
You will be surprised to know that there are lots and lots of archaic, there are all kinds of strange things that are still criminalized under the statute books. And people don't, and a lot of these offenses don't get actively enforced. I mean, it's just that it's not so logistically efficient to keep on going around cleaning up some of these laws over, consistently, you see. So I don't think there really is, at the moment, much to be worried about in terms of being arrested.
I think
when it comes to things like discrimination at the workplace and all that, that might be, sorry? Or as I was saying, of course, when it comes to things like discrimination at the workplace, that could be another matter. But I think when it comes to criminal prosecution, I don't really think there's much to be too worried about.
I see. Let's talk really quickly about property law. I think one of the main things that is a big concern within the community. Am I able to buy a flat with my spouse, with my partner, or with like my boyfriend or girlfriend? Can that be registered under our name? What will happen to that? What's your take on that?
I suppose this is not really a legal issue. It's really a matter of what the HDB and the authorities decide at the moment should be who should be eligible to buy properties, how they should buy properties, and what types of government benefits and subsidies they should be entitled to. And really, I suppose these are just policies that would apply, or these are differentiation of treatment that would apply, for instance, if you are a foreigner. So I would say that this is more a matter of policy, and I suppose as society progresses, we would hope that the policy might advance also, both not just in relation to members of LGBT community, but also in relation to single mothers, for instance. I suppose that's the policy when it comes to eligibility. But if you are eligible to purchase a flat, for instance, I suppose if you are joint single scheme of things, you are allowed to purchase property in the joint names of somebody whom you are not married to, and
Right.
and from that, certain consequences under property law would follow. So I suppose if you get appropriate legal advice, there are ways in which you are able within the law to protect what you have.
And of course, I think these are things that can be discussed further in consultation with lawyers like yourself or lawyers who are dealing with property law. We have a user question. One of our users has sent this in. And it's talking about adoption, and this is again a very hot topic. There was a discussion about this in Singapore a few months ago. So, how can same-sex couples and or singles adopt children? Is that legally allowed in Singapore?
I mean, adoption as a single is allowed, and I think quite a lot of people have been able to do that. When it comes to adoption, really, you just have to convince the officers at the Ministry of Social Services that you are fit to really bring up a child. From what I understand, when it comes to a couple trying to adopt a child, if you present yourself to the ministry at the moment that you are a same-sex couple and both of you wish to adopt a child, they meaning the officers at the ministry, would then assess it to be that it is you are not suitable, or you are not it's not appropriate for to recommend you to adopt a child. So again,
Right.
that is still a matter of policy that the current administration is keeping to. So I suppose
I
on
think
this point,
that yes, I can hear you right now. You were saying
hi.
something earlier, sir.
Oh yeah, I guess when it comes to children, as I mentioned, this is where you have people in the LGBT community being in a very different position from people in, I would say, people in the LGBT community, as well as people who have children out of wedlock. I mean, it's really just the same.
Swang, we are just nearing towards the end right now.
Yes.
And really thank you so much for being able to share your thoughts with us. And is there anything else that you would like to say to our users today about how their legal standing is like as an LGBTQ plus person?
Well, I would say that there are quite a lot of practitioners in the field, meaning in law, who are quite open to really taking. I mean, we all really pretty much we don't treat members of the LGBT community differently from other people, because really everybody just it's the kinds of questions that are asked are really questions that will be asked by any lay person. Really, a lot of these issues of how to protect your assets and how to make medical decisions and so on. There are quite a lot of lawyers who are open to receiving queries from members of the LGBT community, and I think there is a directory of it both in the LGBT Law Guidebook website as well as now I think even on Asia Law Network.
Uh-huh,
So these
uh-huh.
are probably places where you would want to consider going lah.
That's fantastic. And definitely for users, they will definitely be looking for support like this. And it's really heartening to see that, while indeed the legal landscape is a little bit tricky for an LGBTQ plus person, at least as you know, there's a bit of clarity here on when it comes towards things like asset protection, as well as criminal proceedings and issues of adoption as well. Swang, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on board
Thank you for
our live
having me
stream.
here.
No worries. And if you would like to, once again, if you would like to download this free e-copy of the same but different legal guidebook for LGBTQ plus couples and families, you can go to singaporelgbtlaw.com. I'll place that link in the description below at the end of this live stream. And we hope to be able to catch you as well on another show. If you would like for us to speak to any expert on any guidelines whatsoever, be it legal guidelines, financial guidelines, property guidelines, or even tips on social welfare like getting out of depression or getting out of anxiety, please feel free to drop us a comment either in the comment section below, or you can drop us a text on our messenger page. Thank you so much, Swang. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time today. Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much. And thank you to everyone who is watching. And we hope to see you on the next current live. We'll send you more details in a few. Bye-bye.
Bye.